Today in the studio, we have Doctors Leonid and Natalia Gavrilov, Russian-American researchers, authors, speakers, and lecturers. Their work is focused on understanding the mechanisms of aging and longevity in order to extend healthy and productive human lifespan. And they work out of the Center on Aging, NORC, at the University of Chicago. They have numerous books published and research studies attributed to their work. And they're highly recognized and have been covered by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Forbes, the Washington Post, the LA Times, to name a few, and in fact cited by Encyclopedia Britannica and Who's Who in America. So, Leonid, Natalia, thank you for visiting with us here in studio today. It's a pleasure to have you here, and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then, to begin with then, on the topic of longevity, human lifespan, what is the difference, or could you just comment on longevity versus anti-aging? I think for the average person, they think in terms of anti-aging, but we're talking about longevity. Is there a difference for the layperson that you could comment on?
Well, longevity is the variable that can be easily measured in terms of lifespan, years of life, and anti-aging is a broader thing. You need to negotiate what indicators you should use in order to prove that some agent is anti-aging.
Oh, okay. So sort of like anti-aging could be the tools that help through proof and validation to increase longevity? Is that a way of saying it?
Well, when you talk about anti-aging, then you need to negotiate what markers you should use in your evaluation, that it's really become younger, by what criteria?
By what criteria? Yeah. Okay. So then, back to longevity, and related to your research specifically in the mechanisms of longevity with regards to human lifespan, what definition of longevity do you use when focusing on your research?
Well, there is traditional approach when somebody is more than 100 years, then you study this population, and we are not the first that came to this area. We simply use these common criteria. Although there is nothing special in 100 years, you can use 99 years or 101, but simply for historical reasons, this is use round number, and this use arbitrary criteria. But it is in scientific literature, and for this reason it is accepted.
People are called centenarians who live to 100.
Right. Okay. So, thinking of the centenarian population, that's the database reference point that's accepted within the longevity life extension research communities?
Yes, with complete understanding that this is some kind of agreement. There is nothing special magic in this 100 number.
It's just the number that everyone agrees to work with, because you need something to compare.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense then. Thank you for clarifying. Because you can't compare a 40-year-old to an 80-year-old.
You can, but simply 80 is not old enough. Now there is not a big deal now to survive to age 80, and it is a really big deal to survive to 100. And if you survive to 100, it means that at age 80 you was healthy enough to live another 20 years.
Ah, okay.
So that's why extreme longevity is so important. It is not only indicator of longevity, but also it means that you were healthy enough at age 80, at age 70.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. And so then perhaps, could you maybe comment on the concept of longevity or living longer for folks who might be watching this? I know that out there, if you mention live longer, have better longevity, there are a lot of people who actually think that that's undesirable, and that's for a couple of reasons. They have either a vision in their mind of themselves perhaps in a nursing home, having diapers changed, not good quality of life, and drooling on themselves. I've had many friends who say, I don't want to live to be past 70 because of that situation in their mind. Or there's also the people who just think that it's unnatural to try and live longer and find ways to do that. what do you say to those folks who have that view? Could you sort of give them a perspective of why wanting to have better and healthful longevity would be important?
Well, it is easy to answer to the second question, that it is unnatural, because we are already in unnatural situation. The natural situation when you have life expectancy about 20 years only. That was the wild population, the lifespan of historical human populations. So we are...
Was 20 years?
Yes, about this.
Through
life expectancy was about 20 years.
Really?
In historical populations.
Really?
Yes.
Throughout history in general, or is that a specific time?
Early in history. It increases, but so it was quite low
In ancient
life
history.
expectancy. Yes.
Right.
And so it's up to them whether they move. If they prefer to move to this, they can go to some island and to live a simple life and die very soon. That's their choice.
Okay. So individual choice.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, and in terms of it being unnatural, the premise behind the research that you do and longevity is that each individual, each organism ought to want to have a longer lifespan?
Well, we do not wish to sell anything. We just study what determines this fortunate situation when you can live to 100, and then other people can decide whether they do wish or do not wish.
Okay.
It's their choice. If some people prefer to die young or younger, that's their choice. We respect this.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So for folks watching, hey, you be the judge. It's up to you. You're just sharing what the possibilities are, and based on the research.
Exactly,
okay,
exactly.
That's very good. And then for the folks who have that idea in their mind that being old means being physically weak or in a nursing home unable to manage themselves, and I think that's why they don't want to live older. If I understand correctly, what you're proposing through longevity research and finding ways to extend longevity, you're talking about healthful. So that the person who's 80 has their full facilities, mobility. They're not in a nursing home. You're talking about people living to 100 who are walking, talking, and being fully active. Is that correct?
Well, we can demonstrate one of the pictures here, number 4.
Slide number 4. Let's take a look at slide number 4 then. And
this is number 4.
Back.
there we go.
Number 4.
This is a person who was centenarian. He was 100 years old, and when he celebrated his birthday, 100, he decided that every birth year he will celebrate by having a travel across the globe.
A trip around the world.
Yes,
On his birthday.
every birthday. And when he was 104, he made his trip. And he came to Gerontological Society of America meeting in New Orleans, and that's where we met. And he performed dances for the audience. He danced for the audience. So I cannot dance the way how he can.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. And he just happened to be there as a speaker?
He is very proud. Of course he has very healthy ego.
Okay.
He's very proud of himself. Of his accomplishment that he lived such a long life.
104 traveling the world. Look at me.
He's thirsty for attention, and he do everything he can to attract this attention
And promote the lifestyle.
and when you make a dance at age 104, it attracts attention. So he's happy, and people
are amazed. And
also amazed.
Yeah, it's amazing and entertaining. So when you say dance, I imagine some people.
Literally. Japanese dance, not American type.
But a full movement, full body movement.
Yes.
So, because I've seen videos on YouTube of 100-year-old dancing and they're not really moving or shuffling. You're saying this gentleman fully danced, full movements.
Better than me.
Wow.
Better than me.
Okay, so that's what you're talking about in terms of longevity.
Yes, there are some examples. There, of course, most of the centenarians are thick. There is a problem with health issues, but there are some exceptions, and they deserve to be studied.
Okay, very interesting. Did you have another example of long lifespan? For example, I had seen there's going around the internet most recently I believe it's a Chinese man who claims to be 200 or claimed to be 264 years old. Of course, science can't validate, and they've lost his birth records. All of these types of things. Have you heard of that one? Do you have any other examples?
Well, among scientists, there is a consensus not to believe anything more than 122.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Simply because there is a record for one lady who lived 122.
So because they had birth records to verify.
And there is a claim that extraordinary claim requires extraordinary
Records.
evidence.
Yes.
So if you have somebody who claim more than 122, then you need to present not evidence, you should need to present extraordinary evidence that this is true.
Well, that must be challenging for
Yes.
you then, because there you are having to maintain the scientific process, but you're also working within the field of longevity research, so that I think like emotionally you may find yourself looking for those extra pieces of information. How do you validate that or reason with that for yourself?
That's what Natalia does with validation of the. That's important thing, to validate the birth date and to validate the death date if the person. And Natalia
there is a
makes
special
this job.
procedure, and typically, as you told that somebody was from China, usually those people with extraordinary claims of longevity, they come from remote areas, where the registration of vital events was not very good, like births or deaths, because China still does not have the overall vital statistics. And for this reason, it is important just to have the real birth certificate or
Of
some
course,
other documents.
nobody was making birth certificates 264 years ago
Yes.
in the
Well,
remote regions.
for some
But there are
aristocratic
some records.
families, European aristocratic families, you
go
have
back.
pretty
You have
good
lineage, yes.
registration.
But for this individual
and
not.
what is interesting that in those cases where you have good registration, you do not have these outrageous records.
Yes.
These outrageous records
Ah.
happened only in the places where the data quality is extremely poor. That's where it happens.
And then Natalia, it's what you're speaking about. Is that why it raises this question of how is that possible in the poor region that there is such an extraordinary claim? I guess it's difficult to prove those things.
Yeah, also from the issue of probability theory, it is highly unlikely that person can survive to, particularly if you consider current mortality, you cannot imagine that somebody can reach such an
So when
extraordinary
somebody
age.
lives to 122 or beyond, the first assumption is this is garbage, and you have to prove otherwise.
Yeah.
The burden of proof is on you.
As on you or the individual.
Yes.
That's very interesting, of course, and I hear you say, how do you prove it? And we've not seen it happen. And yet, I have a friend who says to me, but the world was flat for 1,500 years as well. So just because we haven't seen it and can't validate it doesn't mean it's not possible as well.
Yes, but for aristocratic European families, the registration was very good for many centuries, and still there were no records of exceptional longevity.
In
of
places
modern-
with good registration, you don't see any such cases. That's,
Okay. Interesting.
And the improvement in quality of registration usually decreases the longevity records.
So that's a goal then, is to have registrations tracked and have improved systems for keeping that for future reference.
yeah.
Very interesting then. Hey everybody, just wanted to let you know that tonight's meeting is going to have to get cut down into, I don't know, 2, 3, 4. Jan's going to work on it, a number of different segments. So check out the different segments. All right, hope you enjoyed these episodes. See you again next time.
Hey, we hope that you and the 3 different parts of your brain found this interview to be thought-provoking, stimulating, and perhaps even irritating if you're working on growing yourself. If you have suggestions for interview topics, comments about specific videos, or would just like to reach out and say, hey, back at us, please connect with us at www.xCogTV.com. Again, that's www.xCogTV.com. This episode of xCogTV has been segmented into parts that will be published once the post-production editing work is complete for each part. So, subscribe now to the xCogTV channel. And additionally, in order to be notified of each new video upload, please make sure that you click the little gear ring icon beside the subscribed button and tick the box for send me updates. Be sure to save your settings, and then when we upload the next part of the video, you'll instantly get an email notification to let you know that the video is available for you to watch. If you enjoy our interviews and content, Please tell your friends about us and send them a link so they can check us out too.